Ladies and gentlemen, good fucking evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever the fuck you are. I hope you're doing well. And I hope you made some money this week. We saw a lot of blood this week, more than, a woman on her time of the month. So, with that being said, what do I think is going to happen? Basically, I think we continue lower, right? Genuinely, I think that no matter what, it's inevitable for us to have to retest our 200 EMA. And I know a lot of people tend to shit on EMAs because they're lagging indicators and they don't really show you, current trends of price action, etc. Frankly, what I have to say to those people is I don't give a fuck. All right. My 200 EMA has always come in clutch for me and has always, always, always been there to provide some sense of trend for me personally and where I believe the market is headed, depending on when we do end up tapping it. Right. So currently, everything is kind of going down towards that 200 EMA. I unfortunately don't have it here. But if you add it to your charts, well, let me see actually if I have that as an indicator. I don't. I have Ripster's clouds. Nonetheless, our 200 EMA for NVIDIA, which is the first idea that we're looking at right now, just so happens, let me actually fix this. I think this is a better place to put it. Just so happens to be at around $85, right? So, just right here off of this left shoulder that we ended up making from this inverse head and shoulders, pushing us to all-time highs, right? Um, in which I genuinely think we end up either coming down below sub 100 and we test, around the $90 area, or we end up bouncing, at the 100 area, or rather this 96 area, and we bounce back up into this 107, pushing back into this 118, etc. However, I still would like to see some downside, right? I mean, we saw everything at all time highs one day after another. I mean, new all-time highs, new all-time highs, new all-time highs. You know what I mean? It was consistent and it was just nonstop. So now we're currently looking for, more rejections and push back to that downside, right? Obviously, on Friday we ended up having a sick bad bounce, which is great. It's amazing to have these bounces, so that way we can end up having lower, right? And these bounces end up providing some sense of big relief, especially when you come to this 101.20 area, right? I mean, if you just simply look left, it's like, oh, no wonder why we bounced. We have a literal gap from here, this 101.20, down to this 97.49. So, I mean, we have a 3 4 point move just to the downside, if we end up breaking this area, in which I'm actually going to add an alert, because if we do end up coming down, I know for a fact that I know there's things that you don't know in life, and there's things that you may act like you might know, but in reality you don't know. My brother, I know this shit. This is going to come down below that 100, and we should retest this 96 area, if not lower. Okay. I will put that on. What do I put that on? Honestly, I have no idea. I'm not a gangster guy. You feel me? But I put it on something absolutely insane and crazy. That we are going to end up breaking 100, and we will end up seeing that 96 area. So, what do I want to see after that? However, what I would like to see after that is us bouncing from it, possibly pushing back over this 107 area, possibly pushing back into this 118, right? I mean, you see this massive rejection at this 120, and we bled to 107 in one fucking day. So, what makes you think that there's not another possibility for us to pop and then drop, right? So that's realistically what I'd like to see, is this 120 level retested. If we do end up getting a really good bounce, that's all really I'm gonna see. Above that, maybe 123. From there, I'm shorting again. There's no reason for me to be long. Going into earnings, however, again, it is earnings season. So going into earnings, we definitely can see some type of big bounce. However, I really think that, with AI and everything in between, and Nvidia making separate chips for China, and the US putting their bans on Nvidia being able to send out their chips elsewhere, I just don't think that currently, in this current stage, we should see all-time highs anytime soon. A bounce, a relief bounce, sure, but I definitely do see lower, and I'm currently swinging a hedge that is the 135 call, right? So all time highs and the 85 put. Um, and this both of these expire in November 15th of 2024. So there's a couple months on them. That's a part of this $1,000 challenge I'm doing. And yeah, that's basically all that I see for Nvidia. I know I'm Mr. McYapperson, and I apologize for that. No, I don't. Honestly, I feel like I'm filled with knowledge. Nonetheless, that's what I see. I'd love to see this one. What was it? What did we say? We said 101.52. I'd love to see this break. Once this breaks, I would love to see this 96 area. After this 96 area, I mean, genuinely, I don't know what looks good here. Possibly this 90. Again, the $90 area is really where I'd like to see a very healthy bounce. If not there, then that 85 level. So that's all that I see for Nvidia. Again, Yapper McFucking Yapperson. But nonetheless, these are my thoughts on just Nvidia. Now we're looking at Roblox, where your sons, your daughters, your nieces, and your nephews spend your 40 hours worth of work in one microtransaction. Fucking crazy, right? So we looked at this name prior. We're still swinging those fucking 45 calls for October. I don't give a fuck. I think we're gonna continue to moon. It doesn't really matter to me. I think the company is. I don't know what the fuck they do. You know what I mean? They just make a kid game that end up doing some collabs with some big companies in the world. And they end up making a lot of their money straight from microtransactions, right? Which is incredibly impressive, honestly. Nonetheless, I still think that we're going to end up getting this 43.10 break, and we're going to continue to go to this 53 level. The plan is still the same. The average is still the same. I mean, when we had earnings the other day, actually, we ended up having a massive move to this 46 to like 46.10, I think, something crazy like that, in which obviously our calls would have been in the money. We would have completely cashed out on them. However, given the market conditions, and then obviously what happens after earnings, we ended up selling off prior to us being able to sell into that move, right? So obviously Roblox has it in itself. However, we're still kind of waiting for that move. I just wanted to give a quick little, 1 minute update on what the plan still is. I'm currently still swinging. Again, I don't care. I think that this is going to continue to go up. If it doesn't, we definitely have our area where we're stopping out, which is this 35.94. So again, just a quick little update on Roblox. Another chip name we're going to be looking at is Mr. SMCI. Again, we have had the craziest fucking moves with this name, especially, right? However, for the past 3 weeks, this is the weekly chart. For the past 3 weeks, we have closed red and we have sold off about 300 points. Yeah, extra, like 360 points. More than that, bro. Almost 400 points. We have sold off 380 points since what from July fucking 15th. We have sold off that much. Okay. Now, there are specific chart patterns or candlestick patterns rather that come into play when you're trading. These are things that I recommend that you 100% put a lot of time into, so that way you can recognize them when they arrive and you can capitalize on that opportunity, right? For SMCI specifically, we have three black crows, right? We have three massive red candles. I expect a bounce this week. Genuinely, I do expect a bounce on this name this week. And this is not to say that it can't continue to die, right? It can definitely continue to die. However, given a technical, candlestick pattern, we definitely should see a bounce. Technically, we should see a bounce, right? Now, if we don't see a bounce, then expect 500. I mean, I have a million levels here just because I was trading this. Obviously, back during January, I ended up catching this move, this entire 100-point move, and I wish obviously I would have held, right. But yeah, we definitely can. Don't count out this 563 or this 496, genuinely. But again, technically we should end up closing this week green on SMCI, just due to a technical chart pattern. Now we have 624.95, or I'm sorry, 624.65, 629.12, and then we have a gap to 653.05, 675, obviously 700, right? This is going to be a big level, 690. and then up into the 716. So expect a bounce maybe possibly into the 716 area. If we do end up clearing that 716 area, then definitely, oh my goodness, beautiful, beautiful right here. This is that level right here. Is it 745.76? Add this to your chart right now. If you're currently watching, I hope that you chart with me also. Even though I have a million lines like fucking Pablo Escobar, I hope that you end up charting with me because a lot of these levels tend to end up working extremely well. So if you look for, or I'm sorry, if you see 745.76 end up breaking, expect this 800 retest. Um, and yeah, that would be honestly huge. If not, expect a big rejection here. I really would expect a big rejection here. I mean, again, if you look left, you have the top of this candle and then the bottom of this candle quite literally at the same price point. Then you look a little bit more to the right, you see it again here. So I mean, this area needs to either break or reject. And if we get either of those, we are going to get another big move. So just look for that on SMCI, possibly a 700 retest. If not a 700 retest, possibly expect that 500 level before we end up seeing a very big relief bounce. So yeah, it's kind of all that I see on SMCI. All right. Next, we're looking at the biggest software conglomerate who changed the entire game for streaming, not only streaming, right, but for everything coding, creating something called Chaos Monkey, where you're able to release this specific thing into your own code, into your own software to see where the nuts and bolts are and where you need to tighten those things, right? I mean, Netflix is an incredible company. They have incredible revenues, right? And I mean, they're really not going to be going anywhere. However, the chart is going fucking somewhere. And since this 665 rejection, we ended up seeing this 600 level, 609, 610, what the fuck ever. It's the same shit. We're 10 points off. We ended up seeing a 60-point move to the downside. And honestly, it was truly incredible. Unfortunately, I did not catch any of this. But nonetheless, let's look left, right? As we're always looking left. It's just like you're crossing the fucking street. You're not just gonna look right. Oh, what's gonna happen next? You have to look left. If you don't look left, you might get hit by a fucking truck, right? So you gotta look left in order to look right. It just makes the most sense. So with that being said, if we're looking at data specifically from February to May, right? We end up seeing this massive range of consolidation. I mean, a massive range of consolidation. From 605 to this 635, we ended up seeing this continuously, right? And when we continued to reject it, again, being at all-time highs at one point, ended up dying, coming back through it. However, we ended up breaking so fucking hard. We ended up seeing 700, right? Which is honestly crazy. That's honestly a really crazy move. So from there, however, and coming back to this 635, I mean, you see that it was at one point a very strong support, right? Now that it's become a big resistance, we may see lower on Netflix. I would not doubt that. Again, given the current market conditions, I am expecting a bounce. But I do expect lower in the near future. So with Netflix specifically, I'd just like to see 600 break. 600 breaks, we see 598. This 598 breaks, we see this 592. 592 breaks, we see this 580. Okay, we see a massive move down. And obviously, if it does come down to it and we see this 537 area, then we definitely will end up filling the gap back down to 500. Again, that's if we see it. We may not see it. But if you do end up seeing this 537.51 break, just, I'm not going to tell you to full port. I can't give you any financial advice, but what I'm personally going to do is full port some 500 puts because it makes the most sense to me, right? Anyway, moving on. If we do end up seeing a bounce, look at 625. This 625 breaks, we should end up seeing that 635. This 635 breaks, we definitely will see this 645, right? Just again, take in increments of 5 and 10. That's typically how Netflix decides to move. This is the daily time frame. So we've actually had some really crazy moves recently, and some really nice moves at that. So just continue to look for those specific things. If we do end up having that bounce, 645, 650 would definitely be my take profit area if I am going to get into calls for a bounce. If not, and I end up seeing this 605 break, I would definitely like to play to 598 and then to around this 590 level. So that's really all that I'm looking for on Netflix. Now we're looking at another chip conglomerate, right? Not necessarily making the chips, but manufacturing the chips in order for them to be ready for use. And we're looking at ARM, right? They had earnings recently, and this earnings report actually made them shit the bed. Shit the bed is honestly a fucking understatement, right? I mean, here was earnings on the 31st, right? We had a nearly 45-point move to the downside. I mean, which is honestly incredible, right? They ended up actually lowering their guidance. So this also tells us for chips, right? This also gives us an idea of where the chip market is also headed. If the manufacturer themselves, who actually manufacture these chips for them to be ready for use, are saying that we're lowering our guidance, then we are more than likely going to see some more downside for chips, right? So with that being said, do I expect a bounce? Guess what I said last idea? Yes, I expect a bounce. Of course, I expect a bounce. However, I mean, unless you see arm break this 127, we definitely are going to see lower again. I would like to see this 90 level again, this 90 level leading down into the 75. This is our earnings gap. We ended up actually playing this. Shout out to the team. We ended up fucking actually playing for like 3,000%, I think, which was incredible, right? Absolutely incredible. So if this 108.80 breaks, however, and we end up not even seeing a retest of this 117, then definitely expect this 100 level to be retested. If we end up testing this 100 level, expect a bounce. I mean, it's a big psych level, right? Even on Nvidia the other day for their earnings, we ended up seeing a retest of the one. I think it was 100.01, quite literally 1 penny above 100. Someone got filled for 800,000 shares, right? So look for a bounce there at 100. It's a massive psych level. If that again doesn't hold, we see this 90 for sure. If not this 90, then we definitely see 95. If we do end up bouncing 117, possibly into this 127. If we end up getting over this 127, I'm going to definitely be shorting from 130. I mean, it just makes the most sense. So that's really all that I see for ARM. Nothing crazy. Lowering guidance is not a good sign for chips and just in general. So yeah, if we end up seeing this 90 break, however, just possibly look for this 85 break into this gap fill back to 75.